always encourage you to, if you can get into a great university that has a strong music program for your undergrad, absolutely. If you feel you want to stay in that same environment, in that same school or in a different school for grad, that's great. Or if you then want to go to a very, very specific place like Juilliard, Oberlin, Manhattan School of Music, even the Yale program, that's a fantastic program. And that has an endowment, I believe. So you're in really good shape there. After that, I had a year of competitions and auditions, and I worked all sorts of jobs, including working in a place that doesn't exist anymore, the Roxy, which was probably even bigger than Studio 54 nightclub in New York. Bartending. Yes. Moi. Yes. I worked very hard, and that was just once a week or twice a week, but that, and then the next morning going to a church job, big difference, but it taught me a lot about life. My point is, I worked very hard to put myself through school, realizing I can take care of myself. Now I want to take care of myself doing what I love. And sometimes we also need that jolt of, I got to work really hard. The reason why that's relevant now is that a lot of people have to think out of the box to make ends meet at a time when theaters have to remain closed, or you have to wait a while. It's okay in the interim. Keep yourself busy, keep yourself earning. You don't have to worry about that right now. But for the people that are a little bit older than you, right, they have to think about that. Once I began my career, and I emphasize this, I may have said this to some of you already, when you do competitions and auditions, yes, you want to win, but more importantly, you want to do your best. And even though it's a competitive field, I always compare it to golf, where you are, yes, you're playing with other people, but you're ultimately competing against yourself, or competing with yourself and competing with your best score. The same with what we do. Each voice is so different, so unique. Each interpretation is so different, so unique. So you really are competing with yourself. Now that I have been on the panel of several competitions, I see that we hear the same singers over and over again. And what's really neat about that is that we can see the progress, the progression that they're making. And so if you didn't win once, you might win in the next one. Those of us that have heard you before might say, this individual has grown tremendously from the last one, and I really believe in them. I'm so proud. I can see where they're going. They can see where they're going. Let's go ahead and give the prize. So it's a lot of networking, and Elisa was talking about community, the community that helps to support you, but this is also a community that is hearing you and wanting the best for you, and oftentimes wanting to steer you in the right direction, okay? So I say that with the spirit of don't be discouraged if you don't win some of these. It's okay, we're hearing you, we're hearing the journey that you're on, and it should ideally be a journey. You don't want to be a flash in the pan, an overnight success. It takes a long time. And with that, I'll tell you that there were many competitions I didn't even place. And yeah, I'd shed a tear or two, but you kind of dust yourself off, and then you need to find out why. What is it that I still need to work on? And a lot of times that feedback is going to help you focus on what you need to do at that moment. Much like, let's say you have a room full of clutter, and you have to put things away. It can be overwhelming to know where to start, right? But if you close your eyes, this I learned from a good friend who's a great organizer. Close your eyes, open your eyes, and you pick up one item, just one. Where does it belong? Okay, then you start a category. Close your eyes again, you pick up the next item. Where does this belong? I don't have a category yet. I'm going to set it aside because I will have a category by the time I go through all of this. That's very similar to where do I start in my career? Which step do I take first? Okay, so when we give you feedback, that is the equivalent of you taking the item and saying, where does this belong? And starting to archive what it is that you need to focus on. I have gratefully been busy all of these years working, and it was always between Europe and the US. There were a lot of wonderful opportunities in Europe, and their idea of creating art is in a way different. The spirit is very different in each country. In Germany, it's very different than it is here. So you're always going to learn many different perspectives on the art form and on the creative process. And that will help you to grow more than anything else. And ultimately, the stage itself is your greatest teacher. Okay, your experience is your greatest teacher, but you want to have your foundation for your skyscraper. So stick with your lessons. My capacity as artistic advisor, I wear many different hats, and there will be, much like there were seasons for me where it was more Europe concentrated or more US heavy. There are times when the concentration is strong, 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 and very much focused with the young artists and helping them and being there for them. There are times when I will have meetings with the artistic and music director about planning a program, planning something that I'd like to create, which will help to involve other artists as well. There will be times when I will speak with development. Now, development helps to raise the funds necessary to keep the company afloat. And sometimes I will write letters, sometimes catered towards specific interests. There are times when I will work with the marketing department. If I have an idea of how we can reach a broader base, something in a different language, just something different that makes the art form and the company much more accessible. You all know that you love to sing and you love this art form, but there are a lot of people that think it's an elitist art form and that they don't know anything about it and they don't think they fit in. They think that because they don't understand it, they're not going to enjoy it. It intimidates them. So part of what I do is try to put on that hat of how can we make it clear that everyone is welcome and that everyone should at least try this art form and the experience of it. And for no other reason, if for no other reason, that it unites all of the art forms, and it deserves our all. And how about the fact that we're not mic'd in a theater, right? I mean, if we're in a stadium, when Andrea Bocelli gives his concerts, right? And I've had the great joy of working with him many times. We're mic'd because these are, oftentimes you'll have 13,000 people, if not more, and it's this huge stadium that's not acoustically built for the natural projection of the human voice. So yeah, there we're mic'd. And by the way, no matter how big the audience, sing as if you're singing to just one person, okay? Because that's when you're gonna keep it honest. Sometimes you see that kind of, especially when you're gonna do auditions and you're in a hall, you see so many seats, you might think, oh my gosh, where do I put my focus? Yesterday, for example, I was working with a beautiful singer, and he was singing an aria, which is supposed to be just to one person within a small area. It was Que gelida manina from La Boheme. Rodolfo sings it to me. And at the end of it, he said, so should I be focusing out there? How far out there? Because the people that I'm auditioning for are out there. I said, no, you're focusing right here, because she's probably going to be here. This is going to keep it much more honest than if you're thinking, I have to sing it out. That Que gelida manina is such a declaration of, I'm so interested in you and I hope you like me too. How could you do that, with that kind of feeling? You have to keep it. So yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Many hats to wear, but always with the spirit of how can I help? How can I serve you best? How can we create community within the different groups that are welcoming us or that need us and they might not yet know that we can help them become a stronger community? And I think that's important for you to hold in your hearts as you move forward, because this is an art form that involves connection, expression. You are literally an instrument through which incredible things will come through you and out to the audience, okay? That's where the servitude comes in, and that's why the technique must be as clean as possible, and you and your heart must be as clean as possible in that moment. You'll also find that this art form, and when you sing, will give you sustenance. Sustenance in hope, in tenacity, just strength in general to keep going, right? So now that I've talked your ear off, I do apologize for that, but let me know if you have any questions.
No, you had wonderful things to say. There's a lot to go off, you guys. I certainly have some things I can comment on that, but before, we don't need us talking the whole time. We definitely want to know what you guys are thinking, some insider questions. If she brought something up that you want her to elaborate a little bit more on, it doesn't have to be one of your pre-written questions. But please feel free to just unmute yourself, and if we stumble over each other, we'll just take a turn. So feel free to unmute. Jackie, go ahead.
Okay. I know, so you said that you went to Juilliard, but I was wondering if you ever thought of going into any other career path before you decided on your set path to sing.
That's a great question. So I will back up a little bit. My first year within the university, right after high school, was actually the Boston Conservatory. And their specialty there, I mean, they do have classical and all of that, but they're really strong in musical theater, which is what I wanted to go into. And so that means you're really like a triple major. You're a drama major, dance minor, and once a week 30-minute voice lesson just to make sure you can belt. Belting is not my fach. I wish it were, but it ain't. Okay, so then at that time, musical theater was starting to go into a rock approach. And my teacher, I was lucky that I had as a voice teacher in musical theater, the actual head of the voice department for the classical singers. And she sat me down and she said, I know that this is what you want to go into, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. Your voice does not do what is required now in musical theater. And I think that you would be very frustrated. You might not find your footing there. I think you're best suited for classical music. So I cried for a week. And I said, I got over it. I picked myself up. And then I auditioned for their own classical program. So this was already towards the end of the first semester, and they accepted me. So then for the rest of the year, I was doing both. And then at the end of that year, I said, okay, well, let me really focus here. And again, this is a lot of what we're talking about, is that focus in a way, that tunnel vision. Every now and again, take your blinders out, but you need that kind of focus and discipline. That's what I mean more than anything else. So I went back to New York, where I had been living and where I grew up, and I had some fun and some responsibilities. I was a teacher's aide for 3- and 4-year-olds during the day, and that was fantastic. That was very sweet. And then I auditioned for the Tisch School of the Arts summer musical, and I got in as a dancer. All of that to say that I said, well, because I do have a dance background. You wouldn't be able to tell if I did something now, you'd laugh. But it helped me. It actually helps you to carry yourself with elegance, if nothing else. You don't have to become a dancer, but it teaches you how to just move on stage. Sometimes you'll play very regal characters. Sometimes they'll be more peasant-like. You need to know what that looks like and how to incorporate it in your body, because each character's body language should be different, very different. But it's great because I was able to expand myself. Then I read Rollo May, okay, great psychoanalyst. And I know that at 18, 19, not many people are reading that stuff, but my dad was a great psychoanalyst. So I also had that in my life. So you'll see where I'm going, Jackie, with this. Man's Search for Himself is the title of the book. It's out of print, but you can't find it. And towards the end of it, it said freedom does not equal rebellion. You don't need to rebel in order to be free and to be your authentic self. My father had been, he was a Cuban immigrant and arrived in this, not in the US at first, but had to leave Cuba with only $2 Cuban sewn to the inside of his pants. So he really made himself, and he was a tremendous success. First, an electrical engineer, one of the original coders for IBM, just an intelligence off the charts, then later became a psychoanalyst. He had been harping on me to try for the best. And in his mind, the best was Juilliard. You should try for the best. And I didn't think I could get in. But after that summer of a dancer where I proved, whoa, I didn't know I had it in me. Okay, I can do that. And I'm teaching. Okay, that's interesting. And I'm reading this book. Okay, so even if I go for what my father is suggesting, it doesn't mean I'm doing what he wants me to do. It means I'm still trying to do something I want to do. And then I got into Juilliard and also Manhattan School of Music. But before I did to that, I was realizing something else about me, that I'm very psychologically minded, Jackie. So I, for a week, had conversations after dinner every night with my dad and my stepmom. She's still with us, and she's a psychologist. And I was torn. Should I try for NYU's psychology department, or should I accept the invitation from Juilliard? And after a week, my father ultimately said, and she even confronted him, these are very personal conversations, she said, Angel, my father's name, I think Ana Maria would make a great psychologist. Could it be that you're trying to deter her from doing that because you're threatened that she might be better than you? See, that analysts always think like this. And he thought about it, and he was very pro your own growth and development. Even though he was born in 1940, machista Cuba, he was very much of the thought that everyone, male, female, must become their greatest self, okay? And you do that through education and through training. So he thought about that, and the next day he said, Ana Maria, you would make a great psychologist, but it would not bring you the same joy as singing would. Therefore, you must choose from all the gifts you were born with, the one through which you want to become, and you can become your greatest self. Everything else will fall into place. And then, knowing me, he said, don't you dare do a double major somewhere. Because you might think, oh, I have something to fall back on. And if the singing thing doesn't work, and he said, because I know you, and you won't give the singing your all. You'll always have that as an excuse, okay? And that in the back of your mind, you have something else. He said, go for it 110%. If it doesn't work, you can always go into psychology. But if you go into psychology now, and 20 years later, you wish you had done the singing, you will regret that for the rest of your life. And he, like everything else, I know we don't like to think that our parents are right all the time, but like everything else, he was right. He was right. So yes, it would have been psychology.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That is all so fascinating. But thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, that's very personal, everything that you just gave us here. And that was, it says a lot, you know, about the people around you, how you need to, that support that we were talking about, right, guys? Like, the people around you will help you make decisions and show you what you need and help you find ways to trust yourself, right? I think there's a lot, especially as a singer, especially as an artist, we have a lot of self-doubt, right? There's a lot of, I don't see, and we have to trust when other people are telling us that we're doing a good job, that like we actually are. And especially in this program, when people say you're not quite getting it right, that's honest. So when you hear us say that was a great job, that's also honest, right? So wow, thank you. Anyone else? Do we have more questions? Samantha and then Ben.
Hi, I'm Samantha. Nice to meet you. What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that young singers make?
Okay, the first one would be the not thinking they're good enough. The doubt, the self-doubt that Lisa was just mentioning now. Okay, that self-doubt, take it out. The technical mistake that a lot of young singers make is singing something that's too big or too heavy for them too soon. When I entered Juilliard, I was made to sing only songs. I mean, they could be Mozart art songs, the Italian, the anthology of Italian art songs. I was not allowed to sing an aria until I think my last year in my bachelor's. And I was so depressed. All of my friends had the chance to do it and their teachers were encouraging them, and mine just looked at me. She said, you're not ready. And I was, you know, just thinking, well, when am I going to be ready? And she said, I don't want you to learn something, which I know you're going to do later on, with potential bad habits. We need to make sure that that foundation is really solid, just right. So then by the time I went into my master's, and I did decide, like I said, to stay at Juilliard because I just wanted the continuity. I probably should have maybe tried for another place, but I think that that was the right thing for me. I ended up coming to the Young Artist Program in Houston, which was fantastic. Different city, different place, different vibe, different experiences, different format, different structure. And it made perfect sense. So then by the time I started to do arias, and especially in my master's, I started to put my packet together in my first year. My second year master's is when I started to do the competitions. And while I didn't even place in some, in others, I won first prize. And what I mean by that is once you're ready, you can start. But if you think you want to try things that are too big for you too soon, you're going to stumble a lot. And it'll be confusing information for you. The other thing that I think a lot of young singers err on the side of feeling that they need to have a category, a fach. I would say just sing right now. Just sing where you feel comfortable exclaiming the text. Okay, so there might be a baritone in this group who will ultimately be a tenor, but the higher register doesn't feel comfortable yet. Or you might truly be a baritone. A mezzo, a lyric mezzo who actually has not yet discovered how her voice blossoms on the top and could ultimately be a full lyric soprano, singing just the most gorgeous repertoire that there is for the soprano voice. My point is just let it be. When I got into Juilliard, I was auditioning with Cherubino, and I thought I might be a light mezzo, and the teachers, you know, they said, it's okay, just come in, we'll keep working. And then soon it was very clear that I was a soprano, but what kind, they didn't want to put a title on yet. But I will say sing as young as you can, as long as you can. By that I mean the lighter repertoire. I was singing lyric coloratura things in the beginning of my career. And in 1996, this was several months, several months, not a full year after I had been a winner in Operalia. I was singing in an activity to promote the following year Operalia. At the time, it wasn't clear the success rate of that competition that had been established by Plácido Domingo. So he still had to lobby. Each year it's done in a different city. He still had to lobby hard in different cities to find who would host the following year for that competition. So I was one of the singers singing to see if Bordeaux, France would host, and they did end up hosting. And at that time, Mr. Domingo said to me, you know, hearing you, even though you sang Juliet's Waltz, I will tell you, I think you are a lyric spinto soprano. I was still in my 20s. He said, that is going to be your fach. Not yet, and not anytime soon. But I'm telling you this to also remind you to continue to sing the lyric coloratura and then the full lyric repertoire as long as you can before you go into the Madame Butterflies and all of those things. Because if you go too soon, your body won't have the stamina, and then you could hurt yourself. And I'll say why also, because when you're young, this is just me chiming this in. When you're young, like an athlete, like a gymnast, you can do a lot of incredible routines on youth and talent and youthful strength. You think you have a technique, but the technique is maybe 20% maximum. The rest is youth and talent. But the older you get, you need to have more of that be the technique. You still have your talent, but it has to be 85, 90% technique. Because when you get older, if you want to do the messa di voce, the decrescendo, the pianissimo, the float, all of that stamina, if you don't have the technique, you can't get through it. So I know that that's a long-winded answer, but these are things you need to keep archived in your mind as far as the importance of pacing and trusting your teacher when they say not yet.
I feel like I just want to put that on repeat. Everything you just said, and like keep it on all day, guys. Keep that on all day. I mean, what valuable information you just gave, because I think it's, when we think about opera, especially just talking with so many young singers, they see you performing Cho-Cho-San. That's what I want to do. I want to learn that aria. You know, I want to, and like the world that it takes to get there, the world of work that it takes to get there, and that is good, and that's where all the richness comes from, and the rest is like the frosting at the end, right? That you've worked yourself up to that. It's not where you start. But I mean, I can only just second how many singers I've seen fall into that trap of that youthful voice can get all of this done, and then 2 years later, they're not singing anymore. They've burnt themselves out. They've burnt their voice out. They no longer can do those things, and so I'm giving up. So I mean, wow, that was not long-winded. It was perfect, and we're recording this, guys, so we'll share this back with you so you can remember all of these things. That was fantastic. Great question, Samantha. Ben, I think you are next in line.
Hello, my name is Ben. I have one question. What should you evaluate when choosing for the correct fit for a college program?
What should you look into evaluate when you're looking for the right fit for the college program? That was your question? Okay.
Yes.
And that is a great question too. Are you interested more in a university that has a good music program? Is that where you would like to see yourself?
I'm still deciding on that.
Okay, okay. I think if you have the grades and the SAT scores to get into a great university that has a strong music program, that from my perspective, I love that idea before going into a strict conservatory. Because when you enter college, I know that you're all growing up very fast today, much faster than my generation was because of all the wealth of information you have at your fingertips. And also you're living through a pandemic at your age. So there's a lot of emotional growing and angst that you have that is always going to make you all the deeper performer. All of you, I would say from your age to the age of young artists. So that includes college level, conservatory level, young artist level. You are all going to be the deepest, most profound artists that we're going to have. There's not going to be any fluff about you. And I was worried about that, before, because sometimes things are very, because of the instant nature that we want, we don't go deeply enough into things, but now that's what you have to do. So to your question, Ben, if you have the grades and the SAT scores to get into that, for at least for the undergrad, I would recommend it, because at this time in your life, you are forming your ideas as adults, young adults, that might be different from the ideas that you grew up with. You are coming together with other minds that come from different households, different cultures, different beliefs, and you're having discussions, you're hanging out, and you are going to grow in ways that you still have no idea based on the friendships that you make, which will later help you to network in life, okay? And you might befriend someone who wants to go into law, wants to go into medicine, someone who wants to go into finance. And then later you might make your own project and you establish those friendships early on. You have that you're not necessarily going to have in a conservatory. But if you are the kind, like I was at the time, where I needed that, then the conservatory would be a great route. One thing to keep in mind, do your due diligence as far as who's teaching in those places. Because you might be blinded by the name Juilliard, but another place, Oberlin, or Manhattan School, or DePaul. Okay, well, DePaul is a great university. Or Rice, or some other place might have stronger voice faculty that can give you what you need technically. So there are several things to balance. Who's teaching where? What are your grades? What are your SAT scores, right? Also the city. If you go, are you all in Houston right now? Yeah. So if you're born here, raised here, you're used to the vibe here, Manhattan might be great for you, but it might not. Cincinnati might be great for you. That might be a nice segue from the Houston lifestyle. You have to think about what all of that would mean for you. There were I think only one voice major when I was at Juilliard, and the other ones were instrumentalists who came in from a very different part of the US who ended up going home because they did not like New York City. So you need to spend time in talking about that, exploring that when it's safe to do so. Does that make sense, Ben? What I like about that is that you ultimately make your decision, but it helps you to see the different things to take into consideration. Okay? And always remember that you're in the driver's seat. So I would try out for the conservatories as well as the universities. Okay? Always keeping in mind who's teaching where.
And Ben, I'll add to that we will continue the conversations about college choice and helping you guys navigate. Dr. Graham and I are always here to bounce questions off if you guys have questions about specific programs. Certainly, Dr. Graham was in the collegiate academic world for a good while and knows lots of people. But I think one of the things I'll be sending out to you guys over the next couple of weeks about while we keep meeting on other master classes is how to just check in and identify some of your values, because those are things that are true to you, that, as she was saying, what matters out the city, your family, other people that you might see. I have a really cool worksheet that we can do together that can determine what your values are, and that can also help you start making that evaluating list of what do I need to have for this program on top of all the technical stuff too. All right, so we still have a couple of you guys we haven't heard from. Sam Dill, go ahead.
Hello, I wanted to ask what one of the hardest lessons you had to learn when you were first starting performing on stages.
That's a great question, Sam. Pacing, the vocal pacing. I remember the first time I had to do a full role, an operatic role with orchestra, because it's different with piano. With piano, it's great, and you need that experience. But when you're doing it with orchestra, that pacing was tremendous. The conductor, at least in front of everybody, is always right. Okay? And if you need a different tempo and you need to do something differently, you need to talk to them privately. At the break, for example, if you're taking a break, you've been rehearsing you have a 3-hour session in the morning, and after maybe an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half, they call break. You could go up to the maestro, maestra, thank you so much. I wonder if you might have some time for us to have a working session to find the right tempo that you're happy with and that I feel I can give you my best vocal performance, something like that. So diplomacy, respect. That is something I remember. There was one time in France, I was having a hard time, and I could not understand the baton technique of this particular conductor, and he was, I think, getting frustrated with us in the cast. And I meant no disrespect, but I said very quietly, I said, please, may I see that again? I didn't quite understand. Whoa, I was put in time out. Well, not really, but you know what I'm saying. So even one of my older colleagues, who was like 15 years older than me, this is in the beginning, she said, I know what you meant. Don't ever do that again. So that's why I pass that on to you, okay? Diplomacy, respect, they are the one in the driver's seat. Also, you know why? Because the reason why also I think it didn't go over well was that everybody was feeling the same thing. But you have to find the very diplomatic way of saying it, because then their authority in front of the orchestra, okay, and with the singers could be compromised. I mean, I think in Spanish we say something is so obvious that it's as ripe as this fruit that just fell off the tree because it's so ripe and it's right in front of you. Se cae de la mata. It's so obvious. So yeah, but I'm telling you, I'm sure you know, but that's a very valuable lesson. I would say the difficulty of living out of a suitcase, even though I said earlier in our visit today that I haven't packed a suitcase in 7 months, the longest in probably, maybe, I don't know, close to 27 years. But it's hard to live out of a suitcase. And it's hard to be away from your community. Now you have a different go at it because of this. For example, you have Zoom, you have FaceTime, you have the ability to stay in contact with your loved ones. But when I was starting, internet was just starting and it was dial-up. And when I moved to Germany, everybody was in the same boat. You had to wait 6 weeks before the phone company visited your home and installed a phone line. So I had none of that. And I would go into the center square with my AT&T calling card from the US and from a payphone, call home crying when I was homesick. And that was tough. That was tough. So you guys have a better go at it. Learning the importance of the fact that your cast, your colleagues, even when you're just starting, the longer you're in the business, you realize we are a family of gypsies. And I emphasize family. I also emphasize gypsy. I think that a lot of this social media was made for us gypsies so that we could stay in contact with each other. But you do become each other's family. So treat each other with that kind of respect and care, especially in your friendships and the relationships that you make on the road, because you'll be singing with each other again and again. Okay, so you want to make sure you get along with everybody. I think those are some of the things that are lessons that you learn along the way that I wish I had known. I wanted to just make a little, we were talking about the importance in an earlier question about singing as young as you can, as long as you can. And Alisa, you said, you see Ana Maria singing Madame Butterfly, I want to sing that and all the work that comes before. I want to emphasize that I sang Pamina forever in Magic Flute, which gave me that foundation. Also, if you have a few minutes, and you go to the HGO website, they're still streaming. They still have there the Elixir of Love that I sang in January of 2000. Adina is lyric, but kind of lyric coloratura. And if you only have a few minutes, just so you see the difference, because you know my voice, if you hear the prendi followed by the cabaletta, right? The speed of that, the coloratura of that is the same voice you're hearing today that then later, many years later, had the foundation to be able to sing Madame Butterfly. And that's case in point, have the patience to build your foundation. So I think it's effective if you can hear the difference and go, oh, but if I had tried to sing Madame Butterfly, which was offered to me at the same time, I would not be here singing today. Okay, next.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Nicholas.
Can you hear me? All right, so hi, my name is Nicholas, and I had a question about performance. So I know you talked about like putting your focus on like one person in the audience, like if you're like feeling scared or whatever, but like how do people like stay, like whenever I hear like opera singers, they always stay in character and always stay focused. But like, is there anything more to that you do that like helps you when you're performing?
That's a great question, but I want to make sure I understand it. Are you talking about how you deal with nerves and focus?
Yeah, I'm talking about nerves and focus, and like when you're also like performing like your piece, whatever. So I'm talking about both. So, but mainly nerves. So how do you like deal with that?
Nerves is a very important subject. I still in my Juilliard years, I wasn't quite sure how to handle them. And then once I started my breakthrough in that understanding was performing the Manuel de Falla 7 popular Spanish songs. The majority of my DNA, I already knew this, but I did 23andMe, and now there's no doubt. Spaniard. My grandparents were mostly Spaniard, and my father's dad came from Asturias and later went to Cuba. So there was something that I felt so connected with regarding that repertoire, that song cycle. And a lot of it is and I hope this will help you. With the text of these songs, there's a lot of reading between the lines. Paño moruno is talking about this, maybe this handkerchief that's in the store window that has a little stain on it. And unfortunately, because of that, it's not going to sell for the value that it would have had it been impeccable. That's not what that song is about. And it's probably a gossiping woman from town who's saying, did you see that girl? Mm-hmm. The one that you thought was so impeccable? Mm-hmm. Well, I saw her with so-and-so, and I don't think she's so impeccable anymore. And she's not going to be able to be married to the one that she wanted to because now her value. Okay, that kind of subtext. Now, I know I've been like super silly now with the subtext, but it's about that. And you have that clocked in here. You will color your voice and the phrasing with that kind of, that if you don't know that that's what's being said in between, you will just be talking about a handkerchief while you're nervous. But knowing what the character is, it emboldens you. I mean, it makes you brave. It makes you somebody else. When you realize it's not about you, but rather, as I was saying earlier, you are the instrument through which that message is coming, at first you'll feel, oh, thank goodness, I can hide behind. Then you realize, wait a minute, this empowers me. This really gives me that extra voice that I need. Going to nerves, I would light a candle. I'm talking about age 17, 18, so around your age. I would light a candle and I would do this meditation of focusing on that flame and visualizing. And a lot of top athletes do this. And their coaches, their life coaches tell them to do this. I didn't know that. I just said, this feels right to me. So I look at that flame and I visualize how I feel right before going into that audition. And I see the whole audition take place. And I also sense myself very confident and joyful going in there until the whole scene is complete. And I accept that as truth and I have visualized it with that flame. Also, if you have a scent with that flame, that there's this sensory programming that you're doing in that moment, okay? And maybe you could take that scent with you right before you go out there, and that triggers that image that you've been meditating on. Now, of course, you've done all of your technical work before. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about something else. Another thing that I use that's very simple, and you might think that that's too banal, but it works. And I may have said this to some of you already. I choose, because are going, your adrenaline is pumping, you can't think of complicated things. You have to keep it as simple as possible. I think of a color. What is my favorite color that day? What color is most in harmony with me that day? I am that color. And I am going in and offering this color. I am blue this day, this gorgeous royal blue, and that's what I'm giving you, the judges, the ones that are taking notes, the ones that are going to talk with each other and collectively make a decision. And if I don't get it, it doesn't mean that they didn't like me. It means that that royal blue did not fit with the color scheme they had in mind. That takes your wounded ego out of it, or your insecure ego out of it. Because again, it goes in harmony with it's not about you. You are an instrument. Here you are offering this blue. So when you go out on stage, that's all you see. You see that royal blue. It could be purple. It could be bright yellow. It could be orange. It could be red. Whatever color you want. But that's what you're seeing and that's what you're bringing. Therefore, because that day you might wake up nervous or you might be feeling all sorts of things. You don't have to worry about that. You're just bringing in that color. And that, I can't tell you how that has helped me throughout my entire life. Another thing that I would suggest is when you're going in to do an audition or a competition, I know that right now they're all, you're videotaping them. But when you go to do them live, please avoid the chatty Cathy syndrome and don't be chatting incessantly with your buddies, even though you're BFFs, okay? Because it will drain your energy. Even if you're talking about something fun that you want to do, a lot of times people get nervous and they just can't stop. And that ends up being a drain to you. I would suggest, and a teacher told me this back in 1996, she said, don't talk to anybody. If they really want to talk to you, go for a coffee afterwards or go for a walk afterwards if they really have a lot that they want to talk to you about. So you stay in your zone, you stay quiet. You have your focus that has to be laser sharp. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was giving a masterclass on how you present yourself coming into an audition. Looking at you, I'm telling you, when you come in, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. Your movement, your presence is moving those air molecules, okay? What energy are you bringing in? And I want to see your laser sharp energy. You say your name, you say what you're going to sing. The fact of doing that feels very unnatural when then you have to create an atmosphere. So you say your name, you say your aria or your song, take a few seconds. It's going to feel like an eternity, but if you take just 2 seconds, 1,000, 2, 1,000, it's nothing, but it allows you to claim your space and set the tone with your color. And you give that with love. You give it as a gift. And what they do with it is up to them, but it takes away the ego. These things have helped me tremendously, more than I can say. And believe me, I struggled. That's why I had to come up with these techniques.
Okay, so wait, can I elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah.
So you said don't connect like the piece with yourself, like otherwise it would focus on your ego. But like, wouldn't you want to like focus it?
Not quite. Go ahead. Tell me.
Oh, okay.
No,
Is that like
elaborate because I think I need to put something
okay? Because I thought you were like the way I learn the pieces is like I feel connection towards the piece, like towards my life, and that's how I portray it. But then
Yes.
but then you're saying like don't connect it towards yourself, otherwise it will not like you're saying something about ego, and then so I'm just kind of confused where you're trying to go with
Okay,
this.
with the ego, by the ego, I'm talking more in psychological terms. But the ego is always going to be the part of you that comes from fear. The part of you that is saying, oh God, I hope you like me. I hope I get this job. Okay, I'm saying you leave that at the door. It's like a suitcase and you leave it at the door and you can tell your suitcase, I'm gonna pick you up right when I leave, don't worry, but right now I need to put you here. So yes, you have to choose a piece that you connect with, okay? But you're still the instrument through which that piece comes through. When I say to leave that worry and that angst at the door, if you're struggling with nerves in that moment, choose the color that you are in that moment. But the piece has to be something you absolutely love because you're going to love being in it. And you know that because you love it, you're going to sing it in such an authentic way that they will be blown away by that authenticity. Sometimes it's not the technical proficiency or the absolute beauty of tone that will win people over. It's the authenticity in your delivery. So it definitely has to be something that you connect with. But what I'm saying is that when you are in character and you're thinking about the subtext or the role and all of that, it gives you this beautiful armor in the sense of, if you're nervous, you've got this armor that is a sense of protection. Okay, it empowers you, whether it's armor or extra joy or the wings to fly. In embracing the character of that piece is going to give you that added strength. Now, does that make more sense, Nicholas?
Yeah, it does. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I was combining several things, but when you're terrified, just think of that color, and you have already visualized what that scenario is going to look like.
Okay, thank you.
I love the whole color scheme. I'm like writing, I don't know about you guys, but I'm writing down so many notes right now. There's just like that, what a beautiful image. My color just didn't fit in with the scheme. That is so great. I've never heard that before and I absolutely love it. I wish we could continue on and on and on with this, but we are coming up to the very end of the hour, at the half hour here of, well, hour on the half hour. And I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. And thank you, Ana Maria, so much for offering such wonderful insight and truly valuable information. This is, I think we need, what COVID has brought us of not being able to do master classes has given us this gift to hear this have this kind of conversation. And truly important, and I think something we just need to add in, Dr. Graham, for our regular sessions once we're back in person to be able to host these kinds of conversations. Very valuable. I do want to just do a really quick check-in with you guys to let you know that the next 2 master classes have been set with our master teachers. We have Janai Brugger-Orman for our October 8th. We'll send you out some information about her career and where she has come from. And then Mr. Ryan McKinney will be doing our November 7th. If I have these dates wrong, we will send out the right dates to you guys. And we will be asking 3 singers for each of those sessions. So you're going to get more information about that. We will try to get into some performance mode. But I would love for everyone to unmute and say all over, messy over everybody, you know, thank you. And we're going to do what happens in 1 minute where you just fill the room with all sorts of appreciations. All right. So I'm going to put a 1 minute timer on and you guys will continue with your mute off. You're just going to be saying all of the things that you appreciate about this time that we've just had together. On your marks, get set, go.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
I
Thank you
really
so
enjoyed
much. That
everything
was
you covered.
absolutely
Party.
amazing.
Everything
So
that
much.
you've
Look at
done.
that.
Feel like
Perspective, and I hope
we're
today
Truly
was
some words of
Yeah,
wisdom.
we just keep on interrupting each other.
incorporated
I
really
into,
appreciated everything you said.
go forward.
Appreciate it.
So much knowledge.
motivation again to keep going.
Blah blah blah. Yeah,
I'm
this
Definitely
is
gonna
blah,
keep
blah.
What do we
keeping all
like,
of this
guys?
with
Come
me.
I
on.
loved it.
really
Everything you said, I wrote
appreciate
down, and
how
I'm gonna look at it every
you
day.
Like a new
sit with
person.
us and
Yes.
really share everything, all your experiences were just so wonderful to hear.
30 seconds. Keep it going, guys. More
much fire
appreciation,
knowledge I've learned.
affirmations.
Just look at that.
You have
I
such a
loved your
wonderful
color
dramatized
technique.
style that
Yes.
I
I
love all
love
the
to.
Awesome.
beautiful analogies and metaphors you created. I really hope to get to use them in
And you're going
incorporating.
to have a beautiful path ahead. Remember what I told you. You're going to be the ones to set the future. You're going to be the ones that will set the tone for how everything moves forward coming up after post-vaccine.
Post-vaccine.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, hopefully.
It really has been a joy to talk with all of you today. And I respect and admire your gifts and your discipline, your dedication. And you are doing exactly what you need to do to live your best life. And I'm very happy for all of you. Thank you for letting me be here. And also the future guests that you have, wow, you will be blown away. They are beautiful artists and beautiful people. So I'm happy to know that they're going to join
Yeah,
you.
we're very excited. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your true honesty and being in this space and listening. We will reconvene in like, what, 2 weeks? Is it almost the end of September? We'll reconvene in the beginning of October and you'll be hearing from Miss Brown for more information. Thank you, Ana Maria, and we will look forward to all of the things that are coming up at the opera with you.
Hey, keep on keeping on.
Thanks. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Have a
Thank
great
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Bye.
All right, bye. Sing your goodbye.